Let's talk about our final control flow, and that's the while loop. A while loop allows a block of code, a code block, to run while a certain condition is true. Here's an example. So this is the traditional while loop. While true, it's going to literally print this code block, and I could actually put more things here. I could say print 2 to the 4th power, and let me fix that. And I'm going to press enter, but it's going to be an infinite loop because this establishes a true condition. And when I say a true condition, a literal true condition. And while that's true, it's just going to be printing this in perpetuity. And there we see, I shall live forever. I'm going to, on my Linux system, I press Control Z to stop that infinite loop. So there are ways to utilize a while loop to our advantage. In this example, we're going to demonstrate iteration with while loops. What I mean to say is, how can we use the infinite tendency of a while loop to our advantage? Well, one thing we can do is limit how many times we want the code block to execute. So we have here x is equal to 3, and we'll say while, instead of saying true, we'll establish a condition right here, x is less than 8. So right now, the logic would say it's still going to run forever because x will always be less than 8 because 3 is less than 8. And if I press return, guess what? It would run in perpetuity. So how can I prevent that? We can say x equals x plus 1, or as a shortcut x plus equals 1. Now I'm going to press return, and we can see that hello world only runs a certain amount of time. And again, let's go ahead and run and see what x is. X now will be 8 because x was added 1 to itself because of this syntax right here. Let's go again and say x is equal to 3. And once again, let's run while x is less than 8, print hello world. And then we have x plus equals 1. Now let's also say print x itself, so it can be a counter. We can observe what is happening with the variable x. And we can see that x, here, let me move this over. X began as 4, then went to 5, then 6, then 7, and then 8. And it said, while x is less than 8, hello world. Let's take a look at a basic game, text game we can create. I call it the 3-year-old simulator. So if you've ever babysat a niece or nephew, or if you've ever been to someone's house that has a 3-year-old, you know how ornery they could get. So for example, you have the basic empty string we created, answer equals an empty string. And then while you could say, while answer does not equal the word because, and as you can see, it doesn't because it's a simple answer, it's a simple empty string. You could say answer equals input y. And then here we have the formatted T or tab, and let me put a space right here, and we could do a format of N for new line. So we have Y and a tab right here, and he says why, and I say clean your room. Why? It's dirty. Why? And then he please, and then do so. Why? And you just say because. And then finally, as you can see, the loop ends. So that's exactly what happens here. While answer does not equal because, it's going to continue to answer, pose the question why, and you can see the tab formatting right here, and here's the new line. And no matter what you answer, so long as the answer does not equal because, the code block will be going on in perpetuity. The only way to break out of that code block is if your answer, the word because, matches this condition right here. I would like to demonstrate now some of the uses of using a while loop for a delimiter or a delimiting character. So we're going to go back to this even odd function, and I kind of changed it around. I removed some of the redundant print statements. So instead of a number modulo 2 being 0, which is an even number, instead of it printing even, I'm just going to append it into this list. Same thing for an odd number. It's going to be appending on this list. The only thing I changed was this return value, and I have even numbers is going to be concatenated with the even list. But note that the string, this is not a list. It converts to a string because the return value will not allow you to concatenate anything more than 2 strings. Quite honestly, that is how concatenation works. And here is the new line symbol. So the even numbers, the even list will appear as a string, and on a new line, the odd list will also appear as a string. And at the end, I actually concatenated a period right here. So let's go ahead and take a look. So the even numbers is 2, 4, obviously 2, 4, 6, 8, all the way to 100. Odd numbers are 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, all the way to 99. And then here's the obligatory doc string right here. I mentioned that we can use a while loop to our advantage. One of the things we can do is use the while loop character as a delimiter. So while a variable does not equal a certain character, the code block will proceed. But you can figure out a way to add this certain character so you have control when that code block ends. You see, what's going on here is that the range is from 2 to 100. So that is the real estate, essentially, that the for loop is carrying through. Now, what if we wanted to be less boring? Let's say we wanted to say for my number in an actual list. So we could say 34, 21, 89, 23, and just do random numbers here. And we now control, it doesn't have to be a range one right after the other. We can actually put in our own numbers here that we wanted to analyze. So let's go ahead, let's run the code, and it is able to analyze the collection of numbers that we specify. However, what if we wanted to ultimately have, like I said, the ultimate control? So we could set it up using a while loop to establish a delimiter. All right, we are using right now a while loop as a delimiting character. So again, we're using our even and odds as empty lists, but this time we're saying user entry equals none, because we are using this as a reference variable. Now, we are saying while user entry does not equal 0. So guess what? It equals none, which is a keyword in Python, not 0. So because it doesn't equal 0, it's going to continually ask the integer output of the input, enter a number, and type 0 when finished. And so the while loop will continue while the user does not type 0 when finished, because it says while user entry does not equals to 0. And what happens is so long as the user does not enter 0, it's going to go ahead and allow the user to input various numbers. You can input any number that you want, and then it will analyze the numbers you put in or your input in this way. It'll divvy it up between even and odd. So you can imagine, for example, the implications. You can enter in a continual stream of names, and then you can log it in after you clean the names up or something. So let's take a look right here. We're going to run it, enter a number, 34, 56. So I'm going to enter in any number of numbers, 15, 67, 89, and then it says type 0 when finished, and then the while loop is done. Even numbers are here, odd numbers are here. Notice it did include the 0 because I had to type 0 as the delimiting character. And you can see the while loop is done. That's the other thing I wanted to point out to you, is that when the while loop is done, you can have a character right after the block under the while loop to indicate that the actual while loop is completed. And then here's where our obligatory return statement. So those are some of the uses of a while loop.